Hello, I'll be talking about the types of machine learning algorithms. So previously we were seeing how to see if our model is correctly classifying items as they actually are. Now I'll look lightly into the types of machine learning algorithms. So they are categorized into three. There are three main types. The categorizing bases on how they learn from the data. So the main types are supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. And when you get into these types, they also have different types within them. Like supervised learning has regression, which we'll look at later on. So supervised learning, this one is the most common. It learns from a named data set. The data set is already labeled. It's more of an input output sort of thing. So data put points to a corresponding correct answer. An example, hypothetical example, if you are a teacher, you're going to give your students an exercise, but before you give them an exercise, you give them examples from which they will learn how to do the exercise. So this is how supervised learning works. How is it useful? You're going to use it in like weather forecasting. The meteorologists use supervised learning to tell the models using previous data sets like temperature, humidity, pressure, and they'll know using this previous data, like previously with this level of humidity, this temperature, at this pressure, it rained. So it will predict using that information for a future prediction, like maybe tomorrow it will rain, but all this is based off already used data. Then the unsupervised learning uses labeled data. The algorithm's job is to find hidden patterns or groups on its own. So unlike the supervised learning, the unsupervised learning does not use labeled data. So the input is not really defined. Think of it like customers using your model. You do not know what they are going to input. You don't know how they are going to use what you have given them to use. So the input given is quite random, and we want a model to be able to look at this random data and sort of make predictions or learn to use random data and make predictions that are useful. So you're going to use it for e-commerce companies can use it, Netflix as well, Netflix and Spotify. So if you're listening to music, if you've used Spotify for the first time and Spotify asks you for the artists you like, but they do not know the particular songs you're interested in. So they're first going to give you sample music. So based off what you start listening to more often, that is what they'll start using to predict and know what songs to give you next. So the information given initially is it's uneducated, I should say. It's unlabeled, it's very random. So unsupervised learning uses unlabeled data that we do not know yet, and we're supposed to use it to get a correct output. Then our third type, the reinforcement learning, it involves an agent learning to make decisions in an environment to maximize a reward. It's a trial and error process often used in robotics, like Tesla. So with reinforcement learning, it's like training a dog. The dog doesn't clearly know what's going to happen, but if based off the treats you give it, like if it sits down and you give it a treat, it will know that, well, I have to sit down. So this is what we are going to do with things like car models, like self-driving cars. You test the model and sort of reward it so that it learns. It's a reinforcement learning process, trial and error. So sort of do, it does, and whether or not you like what has been done, you give a reward or do not give a reward, and for every reward we build on that. So that's a little introduction to that topic, types of machine learning algorithms, and within the next session we'll look into the different supervised learning algorithms, like the regression. Regression is also more input and output. You put in one thing expecting another. If you were to draw a regression graph, perhaps, if you used salary, perhaps predict salary based on past experience. You draw a graph showing different salaries, and based off how many years they've worked, you can predict how much salary you can get. It's an input output sort of thing. That is why it is supervised, it's under supervised. And there's also types of regression, like linear regression, that deals with a linear sort of data, but we'll carry on with that in the next discussion. Thank you.